carry military manuals around with us. We were out on the veldt, fighting the Boer, the way he fought us.
They fought the Boer Wars to save a country.
It's a new war for a new century.
But when the battle was over, the fight for survival had only begun.
These orders were issued, sir.
County for the event some people are calling the Woodstock of the 80s. Ross Becker is braving the heat and smog to give us a live look at preparations for the US Festival. How are you staying cool out there, Ross?
Very frankly, Terry, I am not. It is very, very hot out here in the desert. And the hope is that we're going to have some company here pretty soon in this hot weather. The promoters are hoping that this amphitheater down here behind me, this huge area of Glen Helen Regional Park, will be filled with 250,000 people starting tomorrow morning when the festival officially opens. The US Festival, the brainchild of all of this, is Apple Computer founder and now multi-millionaire Steve Wozniak. He put up all the money for all of this. It's kind of like his dream come true. He's been wanting to do a festival like this for a long time. He sees this generation with computers and all the technology as the us generation. That is, opposed to what we always heard was the me generation of the 1970s. And the promoters are hoping that the people who come here over the next 3 days will make this festival important, just like the people who came to Woodstock 13 years ago made that one part of history.
Hey, look yonder, tell me what's that you see, marching to the fields of Dunkirk.
It was nearly 13 years ago that nearly 500,000 people made the pilgrimage to Yasgur's Farm in upstate New York. Nobody dreamed the concert would get so big, but it did, and sociologists are still trying to figure it out. People came because they were hoping to find 3 days of peace. That's what some say. But there were other big concerts, too, right here in California at Altamont, and the first big outdoor music festival, the Monterey Pop Festival. But it is Woodstock, which is immortalized in songs, on film, and in the spirits of those who came. The US Festival here in San Bernardino has the trappings of Woodstock, the music, the grounds, but there is a difference.
This is not a site where the alternative society is meeting. The youth of this generation is coming here to partake. If they interrelate, if they start playing volleyball with strangers, or if somebody they don't know catches their frisbee, there should be no fear. That era came and just joined without dialogue. Our generation doesn't do that. Hello, how are you? There's a shaking of hands. I think years ago you walked into a ballroom, you would join a circle of dancers. You may not even ask what their names are, where they're from. Our society isn't structured that way, so there is no comparison sociologically.
How many people are going to be here filling this amphitheater? No one really knows yet. How they're going to interact, nobody knows either. Both those questions still unanswered. The promoters are hoping that their dream does come true and that this park back here is transformed into something like a West Coast Woodstock. The gates open tomorrow morning, and it's at that time that we'll find out whether the promoters' dream will come true. At 6 o'clock, we're going to be back here live from Glen Helen Regional Park, and we've got another very special report to bring you live at that time. We talked to a man today who's 82 years old. He says he was at Woodstock, but now he lives just a few miles from here. He's getting ready for the big weekend. We'll be back live at 6 o'clock. Now back to the newsroom in L.A.
Hey, Ross, I can see how windy it is, and I know how hot it is. Is that going to depress a concert, or is maybe the warm weather going to make it possible for everybody to sleep out on a blanket?
Well, frankly, in the campgrounds that they've dug out of the hillsides, I wouldn't want to sleep on the ground because they're all only dust. But yes, I suspect in the evenings that you could probably sleep outside. Most of the evening, people are going to be spending right down here on this newly sodded lawn, however. So I think the heat is going to...
Generations and the Oceans is the subject of a new movie called The Challenge. Now, at first glance, this film could be another one of those kung fu movies, but our Hollywood correspondent Gary Franklin says that The Challenge really tries to be deeper.
Cuts much deeper, this swordplay. The Challenge has a lot going for it, Ralph, including a good story about deadly conflict between brothers.
Setting up their tents, rolling their campers in, getting ready for this 3-day rock festival. Now, promoters are expecting 250,000 people to crowd into this amphitheater by Saturday or Sunday. And I don't care what event you're putting on. That is a lot of people. The Glen Helen Regional Park, just off Highway 15, is transformed into a mini-city with portable toilets, a hospital, showers, food, and by tomorrow night, music. No one really knows how many people will spend their Labor Day weekend here, but one thing for sure is that this area will see more people than it has ever seen before. The nearest town to all the excitement that will be happening out here this weekend is a little place called Devore. Now, they usually don't have much going on here, and the people who live here seem to like it that way. Devore is ready for the worst. Hastily constructed chain-link fencing surrounds the 2 gas stations in town, and Barney Spurlock is ready, too, sitting on his front porch. Spurlock is 82 years old, but don't worry, he says. He's been through 4 wars now. This is nothing.
Well, personally, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
It's bothering a lot of my friends. But they don't like progress. I like progress.
You like progress?
Yes.
But just in case, Spurlock is ready to protect himself with his trusty sickle, which he keeps close to his left hand. His dog, he says, will also keep an eye on things.
Well, I've been all over the Pacific, and I've been through 4 wars. And so this is no excitement. I was at Woodstock as well.
You were at Woodstock?
Yeah, I had 500,000 there. Yeah. So it's nothing new to me.
Isn't he just a wonderful character? From his vantage point on that front porch, he's going to be able to hear the music on that stage. You're seeing a live picture of it right now. And the work is going to continue here through the evening. It'll be much better for them in the evening hours when the heat goes down. Officially, by the way, on the floor of the amphitheater today, 115 degrees out here. That is what I call hot. Hopefully it'll cool down a little bit later. People coming in, setting up their tents for later on. And we're going to be here this evening. We'll be back with you, keep you up to date on how things are going, how many people are arriving. That will be live on our 11 o'clock news. Right now, we're going to switch you back to our air-conditioned studios in Los Angeles.
115 on the floor out there. Wait till Pat Benatar gets
Almost
there.
500,000 people turned out this weekend for the 3-day US Festival. And it's being called a huge success by the promoters and by the fans alike. Although the temperatures soared into the hundreds every single day, the crowds were very enthusiastic, well-behaved. And concert promoter Steve Wozniak is already talking about another festival next year. Our Susan Norris has been out in Devore all this weekend in the heat and in the excitement, all the music. Let's go to her right now for a live report. Susan.
Okay, as you can see over my shoulder, the party's over. And despite this blistering heat and the dust that you see, they made it work and people had a good time. What may have been the first annual US Festival has come to an end. And Steve Wozniak said that despite all the problems they had, he thinks he may have made a profit. Well, we've put together a montage from the past 3 days, and let's take a look at it right now. Thank you for telling me. Will you please hold?
I got a black magic woman, got me so blind I can't see. She's a black magic woman, she's trying to make a devil out of me.
Well, the stage crew has 1 week to dismantle the stage and the Diamond Vision screen and all the speakers, and then cleanup crews have 1 month to put Glen Helen Regional Park back in the same shape it was in before the festival began. And that includes replacing all the grass and all the trees and putting it back together. We'll be back at 5 o'clock to take a look at how this festival went, why it ran so smoothly, and exactly why. We'll see you then.
All right, we're going to correct something that was said here just a moment ago. The crowds out there estimated to be about 250,000, if that, at the festival, although many more had been expected. The music has ended at that US Festival. The party is over, but a huge job has just been started at the site of the festival. Bob Banfield has that story and more for us now.
Throughout the night and early this morning, a steady stream of campers and backpackers left the dust and debris in the 3 primary campgrounds at Glen Helen Regional Park in Devore this morning after the final day of the festival. Most of those leaving expressed little emotion. All were obviously tired, but not a person we talked with had anything negative to say about the experience.
I think everybody was really nice. Everything was really cool. People are, cleaning up. I think it came off really well.
We're from Boulder, Colorado. We've got to hitchhike back. So.
Okay. You're here for all 3 days?
Yeah.
Worth it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I've never been to anything this big before, this many bands.
The Boys Club of Riverside had a portable aluminum can recycling unit in operation at the site, and the unit was not wanting for empty beer cans. There were clean teams everywhere, consisting of regularly hourly workers and members of community groups, Boy and Girl Scout troops, committed to working 4 hours cleaning the grounds. In return, Unison made a contribution to the group's treasury. A bit of a sociological lesson. Put enough hands, even children's, to a task, and a great deal can be achieved.
So like every other element in the Unison Festival that has been so well planned, the cleanup is not a
festival out in Devore, and it appears to have been an overwhelming success. Almost 500,000 people turned out over 3 days to hear music by the Grateful Dead, Santana, Pat Benatar, a lot of others as well, and last night's finale, Fleetwood Mac. All that is gone right now, of course. Larry Carroll is at the live-action camera. He's going to take a look at what is going on out there right now.
You know, normally they would say in a place like this that it's all over but the shouting, but they had some shouting yesterday, the day before, and Friday night as well. In any case, Glen Ellen Regional Park is still out there, friends. Susan Norris is standing by there with the lowdown on the cleanup and what remains out there of the US Festival. Susan?
Okay, it was a huge success, but just because all the fans and concert goers have gone home, it doesn't mean on this Labor Day that all of the workers have. They're right there, down there right now, trying to dismantle the equipment and take it apart and break it down. One of the major problems that they've had is taking apart this huge stage, and part of that is the Diamond Vision screen, which is a tremendous job. They have to take it down with a crane. With me now is Sergeant Ray Dunn with the California Highway Patrol, and each day you had over 90 officers patrolling a 5-mile area around the concert site. And you must have done a pretty good job because there weren't that many problems and it ran fairly smoothly. What are some of the statistics?
Well, we had 3 shifts, as you said, 31 men on a shift and 2 sergeants and a lieutenant at the command post. We had between 150 and 175,000 cars, we estimate here. In that bunch, we had to tow away 255 vehicles that were hazards. 12 were reported to be stolen. 3 later, we found out the people finally found out their cars.
So there were really no major problems then?
That's correct.
So all in all, you think the concert went fairly well?
I think it was a success.
A success because everybody worked together, I think.
I think it was a success because everybody worked together, law enforcement, and I think it was a success because Unison had kept their word, and they had given the people what they wanted, and they worked with law enforcement.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, also with us is Stan Cuppert, and he's a vice president with the Unison Corporation, the people that put this together. Okay, it's all over. What's the general consensus?
A resounding success. We're very pleased and happy at the way the program was pulled off, and we're very proud of what we've achieved here and with the county.
Are we going to see another one next year?
Well, I don't want to speculate on that at this time, but I hope so. I really do. I think we've done a good job, a credible job, and I think that time will tell.
Okay, thank you. All right, earlier today, Bob Banfield took a look at the massive cleanup operation that's going on around here and what's coming up for Glen Helen.
By late morning, the last of the campers at the US Festival were in the process of packing up and moving out. For many of the backpackers, that meant just moving to the highway and hopefully finding a ride to any number of different cities throughout the United States. They left behind the dust, the trash, the beer cans, the wine bottles. As with all other areas of planning, Unison prepared for this in an unusual way, arranging with various community service groups to supply at least 20 workers for a period of 4 hours to pick up trash. This being Labor Day, not much work was being done toward tearing down the many concession stands. There will be work here for a great many throughout the week.
Because of the super planning and the execution of those plans, it is inconceivable that San Bernardino County would not welcome back Mr. Wozniak if he would choose to have another party next year or even after that. It is known that since the improvements that have been made in the park, a great many groups, religious groups like the Billy Graham Crusade, a well-known jazz singer, and a country and western group have inquired to the county about holding concerts here. I'm Bob Banfield, Channel 7 Eyewitness News in Devore.
Well, everyone's talking about the success of the festival. Well, as you may recall, the Devore residents were very apprehensive about having this in their backyard. Well, tonight at 11, we're going to talk to some of them and see what they think now that the concert's over. With the live-action camera from the US Festival grounds, I'm Susan Norris. Back to you in the studio.
Okay, thank you very much. In all fairness, they were probably very pleased that the turnout was not as much as the promoters had originally expected. They were expecting about 500,000, 300,000 to 500,000 people to show up every day. In fact, over the whole weekend, the estimates range between 200 and maybe 230,000, somewhere in that range. And that may well have accounted for the fact that it went as smoothly as it did, thank God.
A nice, manageable crowd size.
That's right. Only 250,000 of your closest friends. Back to you, Ann.
Thank you all. On this
or less noisy than it was after a weekend of hot rock and roll, and even hotter weather. It wasn't Woodstock, and they say it wasn't a flop either, but right here in the cool confines of our studio, our US correspondent, he's been suffering out there for the weekend, and so tell us exactly what was it, triumph or tragedy?
Well, I guess that depends who you talk with. If you talk with the fans, they loved it. And if you talk with the promoters, they say they are overwhelmingly happy. The critics, well, they have a few bad things to say. Nevertheless, over those 3 days of that festival, nearly 500,000 people listened to rock and roll in the amphitheater. Glen Helen Regional Park was turned into a city where everyone wanted to have a good time. This morning, most people were moving on to somewhere else, and the huge arena was left to those who had to clean up the mess. A 500,000 people can leave a lot behind. The biggest job will be to dismantle the stage and the speakers and the lights. Outside the park gates, there were piles of garbage, too, and the last fans trying to find a way out.
Bay Area. Except for the first day, it wasn't too good. A couple fans I didn't really like. Oingo Boingo was pretty good, and Hockey was really great. Surprised me.
Barney Spurlock was still there. He's the 82-year-old man who lives just across from the park entrance. Before the festival began, he told me the tiny town of Devore was just not ready for the invasion of rock fans. Today, well, Spurlock has some new stories to tell his friends.
Over there in the nude, Bennigan, my adopted family, really, they came in. And they nudist, and they couldn't even believe it themselves, so they took pictures of it. It took about several. Such had been some good shots.
In the festival campground, the garbage trucks were on the prowl. It was a mess, but even the garbage and the heat and the dust could not take away the excitement of the festival for one camper who was finally ready to admit it was over.
The worst part was the dust, and the best part was the rock and roll. What can you say?
The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department is amazed, too. Even with that many people in one place for 3 days, there were very few police problems. Only 25 arrests, mostly for drunkenness. There were 2 reported rapes, 1 stabbing and 1 armed robbery. That was when someone held up a T-shirt vendor and got away with $25,000 cash. But all in all, the promoters say they're very happy with it. As a matter of fact, the promoter said today that he's thinking about maybe doing it again the next Labor Day.
I don't want to be vulgar, but that set another record. That's the most Andy Gumps I've ever seen in a row. It is indeed.
And you are to be commended, too, you and your crew, because that is a very difficult assignment to go out for several days at a place like that with crowds and heat and less than ideal working conditions. And you did a wonderful job.
Thank you very much, sir. We were concerned, too, because we wonder if this is a media event. I mean, obviously, it's put on for the people who were there and paid their tickets, but we are giving it a lot of coverage. But on the other hand, you get that many people in one place, all communicating with each other and talking with each other. That is what the news is all about. Those people were making it happen in the amphitheater, and they were having a good time, so I guess we tell everyone.
And the fact that it worked out all right is perhaps news when everyone was expecting robberies, arrests, all kinds of mayhem.
That's right. We report it when it doesn't happen as well.
That's true.
I'll bet it'll be a while before you go to a concert.
I'm never going to a concert for at least 3 months. My ears stop ringing.
Okay. Thanks, Ross. Now it's time for McLovio and the
West Pick Music and Technology show that just wound up last night out in Devore, north of San Bernardino. At least 250,000 people attended over the 3 days, and getting that regional park where the festival was held back to its original condition is a very big job, one that is already underway. Our Team 4 reporters tonight are Cal Campbell and Vicki Vargas, and Cal is live in Devore. Cal, how's the cleanup going?
Well, as you know, everybody with the Unison Corporation today is dead tired. They are very happy with the way things went on the US Festival, but today it's like the city of the Walking Dead around here. They are really beat. The cleanup is going pretty well, but there is a mood of, well, it's over night right now, and that's what's going on today. Of course, a big question we were asking before the event took place, would they be able to control a Woodstock type of crowd if it did appear here? And from all indications, things went pretty well. As a matter of fact, some of the security people we talked with today said that this event, the US Festival, went a lot smoother than some of the sporting events they've covered in the past. As far as law enforcement is concerned, the US Festival went better than expected, although there were a number of incidents. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department arrested 36 people on charges ranging from drunkenness, drug possession, and assault with a deadly weapon. The most serious incident took place last night when a concessionaire was kidnapped from the festival grounds, driven to Fontana, where he was pistol whipped and robbed.
It's the most serious incident we've had, and he was kidnapped from the grounds and beaten up and dumped in Fontana and had an alleged $25,000 taken from him.
And how about missing people? I understand you must have a number of people that are either missing or misplaced at this time.
We have about a dozen or so names right now of persons who the people they came with either can't find them or people have called from their home concerned about them because they have not come home yet.
15-year-old Gabriel Wright of Hesperia disappeared Sunday morning. She was leaving the main gate with relatives when she became lost in the crowd. Her father has been looking everywhere since.
I was at my home this morning, and my wife is by the phone now. And I've checked all of her friends where she have stayed all night, where I allow her to stay all night, and I've checked all of them, and none of them have seen her or heard from her.
There were 400 sheriff deputies patrolling this three-day event, and West Security, hired privately by the Unison Corporation, had a staff of over 700 security personnel. The California Highway Patrol has towed away over 255 vehicles since the festival began, along with stopping 124 people for suspicion of drunk driving. There were 5 accidents, 1 fatality.
It was traffic that was bottled up on an off-ramp, and another vehicle came around the curve too fast, rear-ended the stop traffic, and one of the vehicles burst into flames, and a person was killed.
Another private organization, Event Medical Services, set up its headquarters nearly a half a mile behind the stage. Over 5,000 concert goers came in asking for Band-Aids, aspirin, salt pills, and sunscreen lotion. Another 3,000 rock music fans were treated for injuries ranging from cut feet to fractures. 90 patients were taken to local hospitals. You anticipated the heat. Did you have anything happen that you didn't anticipate out there?
Actually, we did. We did not expect the problems, respiratory problems that occurred as a result of the dust, the dry winds that kicked up on Friday night. Actually, they came in and mowed the grass in the concert bowl on Wednesday after they removed the irrigation lines. And it was so hot out here on Thursday and Friday that grass dried out quite a bit, which just hit the air, combined with all of the dust of people coming in off the parking lots, the cars moving from the parking lots, that we saw a real significant increase in people with respiratory problems.
As far as local residents are concerned, most agree that security was pretty good. But those who set up concession stands in their front lawns are upset.
We worked pretty hard down here trying to do what we did as far as our concession goes, and a lot of people, not a lot of people, everybody lost most all of their investment. We didn't make a dime. But the main thing now is what they did to cause that is what's upset me. And by blocking this road off above us and below us with roadblocks, and they say for the sake of protecting people from getting hit by cars and all that from the congestion of traffic, I don't believe what they're saying.
Well, there's one person that wasn't happy with the US Festival, but by and large, people seem to enjoy it. With me right now is the Executive Vice President of Unison Corporation, Dr. Jerry Corey. Jerry, how would you estimate the crowd?
Cal, I believe overall we could estimate the crowd for the 3 days at an attendance of roughly 400 to 500,000 persons.
Over the 3 days, did you have a peak period? Was it Saturday night?
Yes, the peak period on Saturday night we would estimate at 250,000 plus persons.
Quite a few, and everybody seemed to enjoy it, and you did control it, didn't you?
Yes, we did, and thanks to a very, very cooperative crowd, a very, very cooperative audience.
Thank you, Doctor, very much. Appreciate it. You know, is the US Festival really over? It's going to take some time before they get all the equipment out of here. As a matter of fact, there's men and equipment all over this place at this time, many rock fans still in the area. News 4 LA's Vicki Vargas has that side of the story for this Team 4 report.
Traffic heading out of the park was still flowing at a steady stream this morning. Campers and motorhomes headed for the freeways, along with a few hitchhikers. Some were looking for rides to neighboring areas. Others needed to travel out of state.
How many can you carry?
Inside the grounds, remnants of the last 3 days were strewn about former parking areas. The cleanup and dismantling began early this morning. Volunteers and service organizations made up the 2,100 members of the Clean Team. Even on this holiday, laborers could be seen picking up debris. Trash trucks helped out on a larger scale, but young or old, every little bit helped.
They've been coming in since the first Clean Team started at 1 o'clock on Friday. And they've been working straight through, usually starting at 6 o'clock each morning. And this is the final cleanup right here. And the last team will finish about 2 or 3 o'clock today. And hopefully it'll be in relatively good condition.
A handful of entrepreneurs focused their attention on the ground. Wanda Dye is from the Chino Valley Prospectors. The concert may have been fun for a few $100,000, but it's the aftermath Mrs. Dye is interested in.
We display them. Once a month we have a meeting, and we display them, and we give points for the one that's found the most, or the most unusual, or the oldest coin, or, you know, things like that. And then at the end of the year, whoever has the most points gets a trophy.
Yesterday, the concession stands were a booming business. Now that the crowds have dispersed, all that's left are a few containers and empty booths. The stage may not look impressive now, but some of the top names in rock and roll sang and strummed their way into musical history here. Workers started taking down electrical wiring today. 90% of the equipment was rented. It will be packed up and returned. The stage for the US Festival will disappear in about 10 days. This 60-acre bowl area will continue to be cleaned up at least through today. And when it's all over, Glen Helen Regional Park could be considered a memorial for the US Festival. Vicki Vargas, News 4, Devore.
All in all, people generally happy. We had a minimum of law enforcement and medical problems and a real good turnout here in the city of Devore, about 10 miles north of San Bernardino. Reporting live, Cal Campbell, News 4, Devore.
Cal, it's interesting when you talk about minimal problems where we got a pistol whipping and a kidnapping and some missing girl and some other missing people, I understand. Is there any kind of central location that they're trying to help people find, for instance, this teenager that's gone, or the people that are hitchhiking home maybe haven't been able to get there yet? Is there any information system sent up?
Well, absolutely. The main place to go, of course, would be to the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. They are the people who are centrally locating all the law enforcement, and they are the people to see, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department.
Okay, Cal.
Cal, one other question here. Have you heard any word on the possibility of another US Festival by the promoters out in that area or anywhere in the Southern California area?
Well, you know, there's been rumors to that effect because this has been deemed a success. As far as them actually laying out the groundwork, no. But there are rumors at this time. They say, yeah, we might do this again next year.
Okay, Cal, thank you.
Thank you very much, Cal.
And when we come back, we'll be taking a look at how some people spent this Labor Day.
And Kevin O'Connell will be here with the weather.
Park, site of the weekend's US Festival. We have a report from Rick DeReyes on what amounted to an enormous back-to-nature movement.
This is really a cause and effect story. You put on a weekend of music and big crowds, and you get this. Almost everywhere you looked at Glen Helen Regional Park, especially in the parking lots, you saw trash. There was little of it in the concert areas, where the stage was being taken apart. However, there was still some in the exhibit and booth areas. That's where volunteer groups called clean teams were picking up trash. For a festival ticket, each worker pulled a 4-hour shift.
We started this morning at 7:30. We had 350 people who have probably removed, I can tell you in garbage trucks, would that be okay? At least 100 garbage trucks of trash today.
That translated into 1 million pounds of trash. That also translated into money for recyclers from the Boys and Girls Clubs of Riverside. Since Thursday, they collected about 1 million aluminum cans. At a penny apiece, they'll bring in close to $10,000. You know, there's another part to this day after story, that of concert goers who stayed on one more day. They did it for different and strange reasons. Like these 5 people from Northern California. They couldn't leave because they had no battery power and no money.
For tonight, here's Bob.
The verdict
verdict is in, the questions have been answered, and the US Festival has to be considered a success. After an exceptionally slow beginning musically, the concert finally got into high gear with stalwart performances by bands like the Grateful Dead. The Dead have been together for over 15 years and have played free concerts at Golden Gate Park in San Francisco with higher attendance than the US Festival. It seemed beating the heat was their biggest problem. Rock audiences have come to expect the best from Santana. With their Latin percussive beat and the searing guitar of Carlos Santana, the huge crowd at Devore was treated to over an hour of explosive rock and roll. If there was any doubt remaining, Pat Benatar and her band once again proved rock is no longer the all-male domain that it once was by turning in the finest set of the weekend. It was an energetic and exciting performance from Pat and her band. The last band to play was Fleetwood Mac, an excellent choice to end the festival. They responded with a dazzling set featuring their classics and new material from their latest LP, Mirage.
Loving you isn't the right thing to do. How can I ever change things that I feel? If I could, maybe I'd give you my world. How can I, when you won't take it from me? You can go your own way.
Bob Coburn, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
September 3rd, 4th, and 5th, this lake-lined amphitheater in Glen Helen Regional Park will rock the US Festival.
That was the invitation, to come and join in on a music festival to celebrate the US decade. Over 100,000 rock and roll fans came to Devore, California to listen to 15 bands make music over a 3-day period. since the 1969 Woodstock Festival in New York has an undertaking of this magnitude been tried. An event like this doesn't just happen overnight. It was a year in the planning and execution. Stephen Wozniak, the Apple computer wizard, put up $12.5 million to live out his fantasy.
I committed half my net worth. I did it once before to start Apple Computer. I committed $300 and a lot more of my time and effort.
$12 million will attract the best talent available for a concert of this size.
It may never happen again in your life. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons I'm doing it is if I didn't do it, who'd do it for me?
So join our camera crew as they roam the US Festival to give you an inside view. Opening day found a 4-mile line of cars and fans waiting for the gates to open. The campgrounds were already jammed with over 60,000 vehicles, with still more to come. Rock and roll fans were making their way to the concert bowl to find their 10-foot square space, ready to listen to the first band, Gang of Four.
Too high. It's way too high.
You have to be in San Francisco. You have to kind of adjust to this.
Yeah.
Well, it may be mild in San Francisco, but in Devore, it's just plain hot. With temperatures soaring over 100 degrees, a variety of ways could be found to beat the heat.
I just hope they don't run out of ice.
Yeah.
Then we're going to be in trouble.
As the day wore on, it was time to grab a bite to eat, something to drink, then head back to the bowl for more music, only this time under the stars. As the last band played their final notes, it was time for some people to head for the gates and home. And for others, time to go back to the campgrounds and try to sleep or party.
I didn't have any idea it was going to be a dust bowl.
It's the Dust Festival! Dust Mask! Get your dust mask for tomorrow!
Day 2 of the festival was much like day 1. It was still very hot. Yesterday's cooling waters became today's mud bowl.
Would you welcome, please, from San Francisco, Santana!
As with most rock concerts, drugs were readily available.
Would you welcome, please, Eddie Money?
For those who needed a rest from all that rock and roll music, a seat under a shady tree, or a stroll through one of the air-conditioned tech fair tents was inviting. Either way, it was a great way to beat the heat. Dusk, a time for nourishment. A pause, then some nighttime rock and roll.
Thank you for waiting. Would you welcome, please, the first lady of rock and roll, Captain Eckhart.
Excellent! Absolutely perfect!
Pat was the best. He was the hottest.
The second night in the campgrounds had all the trappings of home. Well, almost.
No hassle. Waiting for the bathrooms to be cleaned. The bathrooms need to be cleaned, and that's the only problem. It's good that it's 3 days instead of 1 day, because you can relax and not have to feel like you have to, like, be radical the whole day long. You can take your time and relax and just have a good time.
The festival's last day. The mood was relaxed and somewhat reflective.
I think people basically came here to party and get high, but that means it's real peaceful like Woodstock was, but I think Woodstock was more of a conscious raising thing, and this is more of a commercialized benefit.
The fans in the bowl were waiting for the day's headliners.
Let's proceed and have some fun. From Austin, Texas, Jerry Kent Walker.
There are postscripts to the US Festival. The media has reported that promoter Wozniak lost $2 to $3 million. The county of San Bernardino now has a regional park with an amphitheater large enough to seat 300,000 people. And for those fans who braved the heat, the dust, and each other, they got their fill of rock and roll.
Mr. Burns.
Joe, where'd you get the fancy TV?
This is 1983